Chelsea need more players. I know that sounds crazy to you lot, being that we've already spent close to $1 billion and we've brought every player under the sun in. As soon as a player gets linked with Liverpool, we want them, or any other club for that matter. But I think that if you look at our growing injury list, there is real validity behind that claim that we need to bring more players in. Whether we can do it within the restraints of FFP, I'm not sure. And the fact that we're getting later on the transfer market and there is demand there because we need these players means that we might have our pants pulled down once again, as we seem to quite often in the transfer market at the moment. Here to help me discuss it is my good friend Josh Aveste. I know you lot love him. The link to his channel is in the description for this video. Josh, am I right to assume that Chelsea need to go back into the market once again?
Well, we need to talk about squad size first of all, don't we? Like Poch, he said in pre-season he wants a squad size of 24, 25 max.
What are we on at the minute?
We're probably on about
28.
28, 29 if you think about Lukaku still being there. So we've got to shed some players. It's whether you class Fofana as a player in the squad. You know, he's out for 9 months. He's effectively written off the season, so he can't really be classed as a squad player right now. Nkunku, he's out for 5 months, isn't he? Carney looks like he could be out for a significant amount of time. James could be out for a significant amount of time. So it's whether you class all of those players as players in the squad. If you don't, and maybe this is what the recruitment team are talking about right now, then you go, yes, we do need to strengthen. But I actually think it won't be as many as what we think.
So how many players, ideally, before we get into the exact positions, do you think is realistic that we need to bring in before the end of the transfer window?
I think in terms of the amount of players that we can sign, with all of the financial restrictions that we're going to have and the amount of money that we're going to have to do to get the players out of the clubs that they're currently at, I think we've got 3 max.
Yeah, I think 2. I think 2, so I'm not a million miles off from you.
Yeah.
The first position that I do want to talk about is the glaringly obvious one. We saw Carney Chukwuemeka after 2 really good performances so far and a host of really good performances in pre-season. He limped off with an injury. He left the London Stadium on crutches. He's going to be out for a sustained period of time. Nkunku also out. That leaves us without a recognised number 10. And as much as we've suggested that Enzo could play there, Conor Gallagher could play there, you know, we probably do need reinforcement in that area.
Yeah, we almost need like a winger slash a number 10, I think, because then we have cover in both positions.
What about Michael Elise? He can do that,
yeah,
can't
he could be a good player, couldn't he? Let's just find out what the new release clause is. So apparently he has got a release clause in his contract.
That is bang on. Everyone was going to me, Palace have kept him. I'm like, Palace have kept him for 6 months or a year maximum. He's just basically upped his wages and put it in there that instead of £35 million, he's now got a £55 million release clause. I don't know that. That's just my, you know, what I think of it.
And let's be honest, he looked buzzing when he was signing the contract with Paris, didn't he? So you can look, body language is always fun when you look at those transfer moves. He didn't look happy. So let's see, let's see if that comes in next season. But I actually think there are other options on the market. And why don't we start talking about those right now?
So the one straight away for me is Ryan Cherki. Now that Elise is off the table, Ryan Cherki, and maybe this is a bit of bias because I've put a lot of my energy into looking at this player, looking at his performances and seeing what he does. But Ryan Cherki is the one for me. Obviously, Kudus is also heavily spoken of, and he's had a really good start, hasn't he, in the Dutch League? I think he's got a goal and assist in his first 2 matches, so that is another player there. Who would be your pick if you could give me one player you'd like to fill that 10 slot for us?
So I've got a few options for us, mate. So one of my big loves is the transfer market. I love it. I'm addicted to it. I'm a football manager player, guys. So, like, forgive me, right? So this is what I used to do. I used to go and scout players, find young players, bring them into the club. That was like the Chelsea philosophy was almost my football manager philosophy. So it's quite fun. It's all coming around cyclical. It's like I'm almost playing football manager in real life.
I know a bloke that was addicted to football manager.
It was me.
And you'll think this story's bullshit, right? He used to put a suit on when his team got to a final.
Love it.
I love the commitment.
I love it.
We'll get him on one day. Go on, crack on. Sorry, man. Just had to get in there.
Yeah. And let's be honest, I've done that as well. So I've got a few other options. So Kudus and Chucky are obviously on there. The reason why I like Kudus a bit more is because obviously West Ham want him. Every other club want him. I think he is quality. I like that he can play as a central attacking mid and a winger. I think he, for me, would probably be the number 1 option.
That's how we get a win nowadays, don't we? We don't bother beating them in the actual matches. We just steal their transfer targets.
Yeah. I saw the stat the other day. It was like we've done 24 transfers draws and 11 wins in the same time.
Like it. Let's keep it up, boys.
Not
Nah, I'm
good.
joking.
So I like Kudus, and I think he could be really good. The one with Turkey is they're always talking about work rate and like philosophy and mentality. Mentality is a really key thing for us going forward. I want players that are all on the same pace. They all want to be driving Chelsea Football Club forwards, and I worry about him, whether he's got that. And I think the recruitment team have actually looked into that, and they might be worried because let's be honest, if they were going to make a move for him, they would do it now. And they're actually looking at an alternative player from Lyon, Barcola. So he's another winger that they're looking at now. So they're even like going to the same club and looking at other options.
I've heard that he's quite far along the line of potentially going to PSG.
There you go. So this is another option where we haven't moved quick enough, and so he's going to get hoovered up by other players. So like that's another one that could be gone. Kudus is the one that is like on the market, ready to go. I've got a couple of other names I'm going to fire at you, right? Wirtz at Leverkusen. He is one of those sort of like German wonder kids that they're saying is going to be absolutely brilliant. He has been injured quite a lot.
That makes me think of Kai Havertz. I'm not sure on this.
Kai Havertz, but I tell you what, it makes me think a little bit of Timo Werner. And Timo Werner, one of those players that some people love, some people hate, is the Marmite.
I loved him.
Yeah,
I loved Werner.
And they're like, I could deal with him being offside 3 or 4 times a game if it meant that he got a goal and an assist. Like, I can deal with that. And I actually really liked his pace. I thought he was a decent bloke as well.
Yeah, and one of the things with Timo Werner, I would say, is a lot of the negativity towards him was surrounded by the perception we had of him when he came in. And I think we pretty much had to accept quite soon that he wasn't going to be the role or the fit of player that we thought he was going to be when he first came in. And actually, as a player in that squad who could do a very good job, but maybe wouldn't pop up with the same amount of goals that we saw him get in Germany, I thought he was a really good option, Timo Werner. So pretty sad to see him go.
Yeah, so Wirtz is a very similar kind of guy. He's more central than Timo Werner and probably more slightly further back, you know, in terms of more of an attacking mid as opposed to Werner, who's like a second striker, a winger. But a lot of teams are in for him, like Liverpool were in for him. A lot of other big clubs are fancying him. So he could be a good option. There are 2 others. One's a player that is a pure Football Manager player. And I've done my scouting, not on Football Manager, just to clarify everyone. I've done my scouting on this guy. Another very difficult name to pronounce, Šmadzić.
Right.
Serbian guy. He is at Udinese right now. He plays as a cam or an attacking mid. He did represent Germany in youth football, but he also now plays for Serbia as a full international. He's 21. He's got the top 15% for Serie A, goals, assists, shot creating actions, and dribbles. So you're sort of going, okay, he's quality. Am I exciting you now?
Yeah, I've not heard of this fella, but I like the sound of it.
So this is what I wanted to do.
Can I ask you one question on it?
Yeah, go on.
Has he got anyone else in for him at the moment?
No.
Right.
But so this is the thing now. I think the recruitment team are looking at people and they're trying to go, where can we find these little hidden gems? Like Gabriel Viega was one that we were talking about.
Just moved.
And he's just gone.
Yeah.
So like they've got to move that in that way in the market.
The reason I asked that, I think a lot of people will draw their own conclusion and understand why I've asked that. But that's maybe the thing. What was the boy that's going to PSG?
Barcola.
We know PSG are in for him, and what I don't want is a bidding war, because when we're looking at financial fair play, and maybe some people to say us as fans don't need to worry about it, I think we definitely do. I'd rather go for someone that doesn't have a bidding war with them, and that could be a potential option there, rather than a player that the price is going to be massively drove up on.
Yeah, and this is why we've got to find these hidden gems, and that's our recruitment team are doing that in sort of like other areas. Like Ugo Chukwu, no one had heard of this guy, and they've plucked him out, and like he looks like he's a decent player. Like we haven't seen him play. Jackson, another one, very low money, you know, seemed like a decent player. Disasi was a player. While he's let us down in the last game, he is going to come good. Yep. Not a lot of other clubs are in for him, so we've done the business, some of the business.
And the other thing as well is we are addressing this position as a priority because of what? Injuries.
Yeah.
So, you know, injuries come and injuries go. And when they do go, we have got the likes of Christopher Nkunku coming back and Carney Chukwuemeka, who's made a real claim to be, you know, in and around that team if Nkunku for any reason isn't fit and available. And for that reason, I think the profile of player we brought in needs to be someone that can maybe understand that you are a squad player. You're going to probably come in and have a starting berth, you know, straight away. But to be acceptant that you're going to have to rotate at times.
Do you think we've taken a bit of an L here in terms of the loan players and when we've done them? Cassidy, just gone and could fill in a central attacking mid position and is tearing it up at Leicester, already scored a goal.
You know how I feel about Cassidy.
This is what I mean.
I'm high on Cassidy.
So, like, do you think that the club have let us down a little bit with some of the loans and how quickly they've loaned some of these players out when Casadei, for me, I don't know what you think. Did he impress you a little bit more than a Santos in pre-season?
Massively.
Yeah.
Massively. Casadei was a player that I thought could pick up the ball and drive forward so well. Also, he's a bit of a unit, isn't he? Gives us that aerial presence there, which maybe you wouldn't associate with a number 10, but I think he could have done a really good role. Looked very confident, impressed in the under-20s World Cup. So he's a player that I would have had in there. But to play devil's advocate for it, you know, I get that you can have depth because of injuries, but you can't really prepare for injuries. No one can say, okay, you know, say for example, if Nkunku goes, we've got Chukwuemeka. Okay, what if they both go? I think that's going down a bit too far of a hypothetical line when it comes to preparing for these things.
This is now why I'm talking about transfers and whether we need them or not, because you've got to think about next summer. It's not just about now and the here and now. You've got to think, right, we sign, you know, Turkey now, right, for example, and then you've got Casadei coming back. You got Angelo coming back. You got a lot of other players, David Datro Fofana coming back next summer.
Again, to play devil's advocate, that's under the assumption that they do come back. And one thing I've been trying to get a lot of people's heads round is the fact that you may not well see all of these players coming back. Under Roman Abramovich, we weren't really a club that invested in young talent to move them on. You know, you see Man City doing it from time to time. You see a lot of clubs doing it, and maybe that's the mould we're going down. So that's just a little bit on the other side to say that maybe we don't see all of these players come back. Maybe we do see the likes of an Angelo. Not saying I want it, but maybe we do see him go out, impress on loan, and then drive his value up and us sell him on. So there are potentials there that we might not see all of these players come back. But I do understand your point.
For me, though, it's like, do I want to sign another player on more wages, more money, when I've got some players that could have like filled the position that we need to fill already at the football club? So there's always a balance. We love transfers as fans, right? It's always very exciting to get a new player, especially a player that you might not know that much about. There's a buzz to it, but there's also a business side to this now where you've got to go, we have players there that could have filled in this position. Casadei being the one for me that is the biggest one, and now we can't recall them. So it's a bit of a shame, really.
Without being too short-sighted, when he does come back, I think he's going to be sort of twice the player that he left, having gained that experience. I know he was actually on loan in the Championship last season, but I do think that Leicester are going to have a serious title charge this season. I've backed them actually to finish second in the Championship. I do think they'll get automatic promotion, and I think that alongside sort of Dewsbury Hall in that midfield and the players that you got at Leicester, he's going to have a really good season, learn a lot, and come back to us probably twice the player. Would that be your option then? The guy from, what's his name?
Udinese,
Yep.
Šmadzić. Great name, by the way.
Would he be your option,
I just
Šmadzić?
like him as a random pick, and I just think it's fun to suggest options that aren't necessarily in every transfer room or column. So I've watched him, and I really like the look of him. And also, like what the recruitment team are doing at the moment, I've looked at the stats, and the stats are good. So you've got to back that. I've got one more name to throw at you.
Yep.
We didn't get Elise from Palace. Who am I going to say?
I'd love him. I would love Eze.
Yeah, you've got to say it. It's Eze.
Yeah, I think the price on him is going to be pretty high. I think you're looking at 50 mil plus for Eze, aren't you?
But that's the kind of like ballpark that we're playing in right now in terms of the players that we've got to bring in. He's, you know, he is English. He is a quality player, underrated, maybe gettable out of Palace. They've obviously turned us down for Elise. Okay, let's go back in and take your other best player.
Yeah, and we could get him for probably not far off the same fee. That'd be one I'd be very interested in. Eze would be a brilliant one. I don't see it happening. That's my initial gut feeling on it. But, you know, I'd be very interested to know, as a number 10, do you lot think we need one? And if so, get your suggestions in the comments. I will be reading them all and coming back to you. To cap it off, you initially, when I asked you how many realistically do you think we would bring in, I said 2, and they were my 2 positions. You said 3. So is there any other area in the pitch, or were you sort of thinking about killing 2 birds with one stone with someone that can play on the wing and through the middle in that number 10 role?
Yeah, so number 10 are the players that we've talked about so far. Goalkeeper is the other one. And then I think there may be a last-minute move for a winger as well. Right. So more traditional winger, more of like a high acceleration player that can beat a man, sort of like a Sterling younger version.
You know, Pochettino had said that we were done in the transfer market, and he had said that, you know, he's very much happy to work with the players he's got. He has sort of U-turned on that a little bit, unless quotes have been taken on out of context, and we know that does happen. We're very much in favour of sticking with Nicholas Jackson, seeing how Amanda Broja comes back, who has impressed us in the past, and we think we're sort of good enough there, especially once Nkunku comes back also. But Pochettino has been quoted as saying he does think that we are looking to go into the market for a striker. Now, you can read into that what you will, because he didn't necessarily say he thinks we need a striker. He said he thought that the club were looking to do it. So The last one I'll say, is there any possibility, or is it completely dead in the water, that we bring Vlahovic in and Lukaku does go to Juve?
I can't see it being those two. I mean, Lukaku could go to Juve. I just can't see us going. Like, all of the rumours around Vlahovic has called off, hasn't it?
I wouldn't have him personally. I'd stick with what we got. Interesting little thing. Craig Mitch, big Spurs fan, the other day told us that he'd have Lukaku there, and I think most Spurs fans would go with that, wouldn't they?
It's a bit of a mad one, isn't it? If he ends up playing for Spurs, what a career like he's had, like a random way of going about it, and like we were talking about, like doing business with Spurs doesn't happen very often. So if we do that, be an absolutely mental transfer. But actually, good for Chelsea, good for Spurs. So everyone's happy. And Lukaku stays in London. I don't know, does he even like London?
He doesn't like much, that fella. Anyway, we cap it off on that. People, thank you very much for joining us in another video. Again, I want to stress I'm really, really appreciative. Obviously, the support that I have had on this channel is ridiculous. The subscriber count going up. But also, you know, even that my appearance recently on the kickoff, such good feedback. And I was also seeing that in the comments section, a lot of you guys were saying it's really good to have me on there. So I'm very, very appreciative. One person I'm even more appreciative of is Josh Aveste, who's been a massive, massive help for this channel. So please do me a massive favour. And also, you won't just be doing me a favour. This guy bangs out some seriously good content. So hit the link in the description to Josh's channel. You'll see everything coming from his page. And the good news is we're going to be linking up a lot more on this channel. So hit the link, subscribe to his channel, and I will see you all in the next one.